Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today, in this video, we'll learn about some of the pseudo CSS selectors which are mostly underused, and we'll understand how we can leverage it with its users. Here we will create a basic form and implement these selectors as we go through. So let's get started. We will be covering some of the most underused 7 CSS selectors. The first one is focused within. The focus within CSS pseudo class represents an element that can receive focus or contains an element that has received focus. So we will also figure out what is the difference between the focus selector as well as the focus within selector as well. In other words, it represents an element that is itself matched by the focus pseudo class or has a descendant that is matched by focus. This is taken from Mozilla Developers Network web docs, and as you can also see, I have a screenshot for caniuse.com. So looks like some of the major browsers already support this. So let's go ahead and implement this one. For its implementation, I have used Code Sandbox. So let's begin with, we have a section tag here, and then we can add a class to our section tag and call it form wrapper, and inside here we can add our form tag, and then the action is submit, and then inside here we can add our image where we will take from our src and then images and then logo.png logo. So if I hit Command and B, I can toggle the side panel, which is some of the shortcuts available in Code Sandbox. You can explore it, and so Code Sandbox is somewhat similar to CodePen as well. So you will have a better like adding dependencies and other good features that you can explore, obviously. So we have the image, right? And then I have images folder. I have already uploaded the image inside here. So we'll be using this particular dummy image right here, and close this one. And we will not like go through the detail of the CSS, like making things pretty, but we will obviously cover some of the pseudo classes that we want to have like understand it better. So we will have a heading of h1 and maybe probably an h4 of please fill the form and help us to understand you better. So I think this will be pretty much fine for us now, and then we can also hit break tag over here, and we are using a lot of breaks because we don't want to like get into the nitty-gritty of CSS, but generally pseudo classes, which we'll be discussing, which is focus versus focus within. So inside here I want to have a label, and label is for username. We can really use to the camel case, so your name, and then inside here we can have an input tag of maybe type text as well, and then we can also add an empty span so that we can make the use of some of the pseudo classes for manipulating this one. And then inside here let's add a class of focus visual, and then let's name it as well as username, and the field is required, right? So now let's move towards our CSS. Let's give the body of height 100 view height, and then make a display of flex, and then align items to center. Sorry, align items to center, auto justify content to maybe center, so that our this thing is vertically and horizontally aligned center. Also, in case of we have some of the elements that doesn't align well, we'll add this particular property as well, text align center as well. So now let's go to our form wrapper, and then inside here we can give it a max width of around 80 VH for now, sorry, VW for now, and then maybe we can add a little bit of padding to it as well, and then we will also give it a border of 1 pixel solid, and we will have our random hex code like E8. Okay, so we can add a style over here, and we can write some width to this image right here and give it a width of 150 pixel, and we can also give it a height, but it's fine for now. As you can see, we have pretty much decent stuff going on. So now let's focus on our focus within Pseudo Selector. For this one, what I will do is I will add another block of code, which is right here, and we will add a label, input, and span inside, in the bottom of the BR tag. And for this one, we will add password and your password, or maybe not password, maybe we'll add location and your location, right? And then we can also add some class like focus visible, which is fine. We will also give this a particular ID and give it the ID of location, and then name would be location, and then let's add this as an optional field. Okay, so as you can see, we can like navigate to each of the text field with just hitting tabs. So actually that is what I wanted. So we will add another BR over here, which like sends out a gap. So we are pretty much fine with it now. So let's move ahead and add our pseudo class. For that one, we have some the pseudo class which is focused within. So for all our form elements, we want to trigger or maybe like take an effect of this particular selector, and we want to give a background of let's say I will take on some of the hex code that matches some of the logo that I have here, but it's not like it should be of the same color palettes or so. And we'll also add some box shadow, and then box shadow and V max, and then give it RGBA color of probably a little bit of pinkish as well, and then also give it a padding of 20 pixels as well. So if I just hit save, and if I just focus on this one, as you can see, it takes an effect. So we'll definitely like go to the focus element when we discuss about focus visible in our next attempt. And this is what focus within does. It's actually represents an element which receives, if the forms receives a focus, and it takes on some effect that we want in a sense. So this is somewhat quite a like interesting pseudo class which is really underused. And let's take on another like pseudo class which is focus visible. So focus visible is the pseudo class that applies while an element matches the focus pseudo class, and the user agent determines via heuristics that the focus should be made evident on that element. It is useful for providing a different focus indicator based on users input modality, mouse versus keyboard. So we will get into that. And this text is taken from MDN web docs, and as you can see, can I use have a little bit of problem with the major shipment of the browsers, but we obviously have some fallbacks to this one. You can explore it as well. So we'll implement this, and we are using obviously Edge right now. So let's go and like implement this one right here, and we can add our like this particular class we made, which is focus visible, and we can write on focus visible, and then maybe probably give it an outline of 2 pixel solid, and maybe an RGB which I will like take out from our call palettes I have prepared. And let's, as you can see, we have this particular thing right here, right? So let's like comment this one, and let's have our like focus element, just a focus element to this one. So focus, and then outline of 2 pixel solid and red. So if I hit it save, as you can see, it like it highlights it, the focus elements obviously, but the main difference between the focus visible and the focus element is we can head on to Mozilla Developer Network, which is this one, and then maybe visible, or I can like bring on some URL and paste it here. And down below, as you can see here, in this particular block right here, which is selectively showing the focus indicator. So generally, the focus and the focused visible is a pseudo class which applies to an element that matches the focus pseudo classes in general, which we talked before. But in this example right here, we can see here like the focus only and then focus visible only, which is a dashed orange, which is focus visible, right? So the main difference would be if I navigate through the keyboard, then I get this particular dotted lines, which is from the focus visible, and but I don't see any focus during my on click from my mouse. So generally it is generally selectively applies focus indicator based on keyboard focus. So it applies its styles to say in just a keyboard focus. So if you want to like toggle on slides, I mean some of the toggle on some of the changes in keyboard focus, we use this particular thing, a pseudo selector, which is focus visible, whereas in a normal focus this can be done as well. And yeah, that's a general difference between the focus and the focus visible. For now, I think we are pretty much okay with our this element right here, so we'll remove it. So I have a spelling mistake, which is it's your why there's another mistake as well. I'm really sorry. Okay, anyway, so now let's move on to our next out of range and in range. Well, this particular pseudo class generally works with numbers, which are type numbers rather than text, because it takes on max and min attributes that in range matches when the value within the specified range is and then out range, which when matches the value outside of a specified range. So in range and out range are the pseudo selectors, and if there are no range constraints, then neither pseudo classes matches. So looking at can I use, it's pretty much supported in major browsers. So let's go ahead and implement this. For that one, we need another field, which should be number, right? So for that one, we will add another thing right here. We can add two breaks and add an input field, and then this can be your age, and this can be age, right? So let me take a reference. Yeah, okay, yeah. The value can be a number, so let's keep place it age for now. That's fine. And then we can mark it as required, and then we can also give it a class. I think we did have class before. Yeah, and number, and then this can be age, and then the ID. Let's give an ID of age as well. And then because we may need it in our later on, so let's add a type as well. I think we already have a type, and add a placeholder, and inside here we give our range, which is 18 to 100. So age must be between 18 to 100, so it must not be less than 18. So we add our min attribute right here, and we will also add our max attribute, which should not be greater than 100. And also we can write our next attribute and give it a value of probably 18, right? So let's save this one, and down here below what we can do here is we can, as you can see, our fields is not totally full width, so let's like select everything, I mean every input element in its DOM, and give that's what this particular asterisk selector does, width of 100, not VH, but it's 100% for now. That's fine. Yeah, I think it's pretty much fine for now. But our field is not some kind of validated with the pseudo classes as well. So let's validate our fields with the pseudo classes. So for that one, we can write something like in range, and we want to select this span element, sibling span element, and place in after pseudo class to that particular span element, and we want to display this as a block because we want to go with forward, and the content we want to some kind of append, but through CSS. You obviously can easily implement this in JavaScript, but we want to explore the pseudo classes, right? So the age, yeah, okay. Let's see. Yeah, it's a required field, and the easy. Yeah, we can change this one later as well. The first one is in range, and the second one would be out of range. Out of range. So if it's out of range, then we can some kind of like append your age is not valid, and then in range your age is valid, right? And then we can also now as you can see here, we can, your age is not valid, right? So not valid. Okay, yeah, this is what it does. It generally like it should be a number, but it didn't just accept number, type number, and then weird. It should only accept numbers, but I can type on alphabet E. I didn't know that, but anyway. So let's move ahead, and I think you got some ideas on like setting up some of max value and min value inside our input tags, and then make the use of out range and in range pseudo classes. So now moving on to the next, we have something called valid, as well as we do have invalid as well. And then for that one, actually what it does is it just validates the field, and then it helps us to format the fields and then other styles as per the validation or its invalidation, so to say. And the example would be form fields, basic simple validation like null values before summation. Yeah, so let's implement that one. So for that one, we can write input and select all the input that we have, and then we want to select the adjacent span, and we want to pass the content of like let me bring the content with the cross tag, because I have the cross tag over here. So some kind of like glyph icon over there. So I think maybe, okay, your field must be filled. That's going perfect. So we are making some kind of like just pure vanilla JavaScript. I mean vanilla CSS. It's not vanilla anyway, but it's just pure CSS validation, right? So and then this should be checked. So I'll bring on that particular glyph icon, and the fields look okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, right. And then yeah, so amazing pseudo classes, amazing thing. So if we have 200, then this must be filled. So this must be filled. It must be valid. Anyway, the field must be valid. The is not valid. Anyway. So I think you got some initial ideas, right? So now let's move on to our next pseudo class selector, which is optional. So generally optional represents any input, select, or text array element that does not have the required attributes set on it. Mostly useful for styling fields that are not required to submit a form, right? So as you can see here, we have a required, we have optional, and every other fields are required. So for that one, we'll also like try it out to have our input and add our optional, and then we want to select the adjacent span tag, because we do have an empty span tag all over the input, just adjacent to below the input placeholder. So for that one, we can write color, and we can give it pure black for now, and then we can write a content, and then write optional field, right? So we don't need this optional text right here, because we handled over it with this one, right? So this is looking pretty good. Yeah. So now the last step would be like adding a submit button, and then checking all the fields are validated, And after hitting on the submit, we can like hit on the Ajax request or anything like that. But we won't be covering that far for this particular video. So now let's move on to the next, which is placeholder. So placeholder is represents any input or text area element that is currently displaying placeholder text. Most useful for styling fields placeholder that are currently shown. Okay, so as you can see here, we have the placeholders, right? The placeholders, but we don't have a placeholder here. Let's add a placeholder to this one as well. This is the name field, right? So great. And now let's add another placeholder tag right here as well. This is the location field. Okay. So now we are exploring placeholder show. Now for our, let's experiment it with the location. So we have the location as an ID. So we'll just select location as an ID. We'll have a placeholder and then add a show. And then we can, right now we can also play with the text overflow. What it does is it's generally right, ellipsis. Let me show you what it does. If I have a long field like this, right? Long field like this, yeah, it's working now because I had some of the spelling errors. What it does is it somewhat kind of like splices the character length. As you can see, it overflows here, but it does dot dot dot. So we have this, right? And then this is generally what it does, but we won't be needing it now. So we have this particular field, which is placeholder. So, and then the other thing is target. Generally, target is really awesome. So let me, for the target, I need to like restructure this HTML. Okay, so now let's understand the target pseudo selector. So generally, target pseudo selector is represents a unique element, target element with a matching URLs fragment. Example, the highlight portion of the page that has been linked from the certain links of the page, which is this particular link of the page is linked with another this particular thing. As you can see here, this particular thing has half of condition, and this has ID of condition as well. And what I have done here is I have this particular thing right here, which is primarily it's display none. So after we hit on this particular terms and condition, I can see a model, and I can close that model as well because the half of that particular model, which is closed, and the class is closed, but we are not using that particular class anyway. But the half is just an hashtag, right? But here is the tag and the ID that we passed, which is this one. So this one will some kind of like trigger this one. So if we click on terms and condition, we see a pop-up, which is kind of styled right here. And if we close on it, it just goes back to this particular thing that we have, right? So it's kind of like really cool in a sense. And as you can see, its measures are supported in a lot of the browsers as well. So yeah, and that's it, guys. I hope you got some ideas on making some forms with some underused CSS Pseudo selectors, and hope for your upcoming application easily you can like validate your forms easily with these Pseudo selectors as well. So thank you so much for watching my videos. If you guys want to learn more about design and development more, please like, share, and subscribe with a click down below. I'll trying to make more better videos as well. So see you in the next one, guys.